I'm going to do the second vote and yield to Senator Cruz for his questions, and I will be back shortly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Davis, where are you right now?
Washington, D.C., in a conference room.
So you're in Washington, D.C. Why aren't you in this hearing room right now?
This is where I was told to come. There's COVID protocols for the safety and security of my family.
Facebook is in the process of hiding. Facebook is in the process of trying to avoid accountability. You're not physically here, even though you are blocks away from us. So you're sitting in a conference room, but you don't want to actually face senators and answer questions. Last week, a colleague of yours, I guess, didn't have the instincts of hiding that you did. Mr. Satterfield actually came physically and was here for a hearing. And by the way, we have hearings every week, even with COVID. So it is witnesses that want to hide and avoid us that are not physically here and choose to do it over video as well. But your colleague, Mr. Satterfield, played the Sergeant Schultz game. If you remember the old TV show Hogan's Heroes, his testimony was essentially, I hear nothing, I see nothing. And so when it came to Facebook's research concerning the incredible harm that Instagram is inflicting on young girls, your colleague, Mr. Satterfield, said he didn't know anything about it, that he didn't cover those issues, he didn't know anything about it. So I would assume, Ms. Davis, as global head of safety, you are familiar with these issues?
Certainly.
So you're not going to plead ignorance as Mr. Satterfield did, is that right?
Answer questions about in my area of expertise, of course.
Okay. One of the things the Wall Street Journal reported was that Mark Zuckerberg was personally and directly aware of that research. Is that correct?
Senator, Mark pays attention to a lot of the impact research that we do, and I don't know whether he was aware of the specific piece of research, but I know that he's looking at the research, as we all are. I work with the research teams on a weekly basis, a daily basis, actually, in relation to the safety and security of the people on our platform.
All right, so you said you weren't going to plead ignorance. Your very next question is, I don't know. It was reported Mark Zuckerberg was personally aware. Have you ever discussed this research with Mark Zuckerberg, yes or no?
This particular research, I don't remember discussing that with him, no.
Okay, a minute ago, you said that this research was, and I wrote it down because the phrase really jumped out at me, you said this is not bombshell research. I found that a pretty remarkable statement. The Wall Street Journal reported that your Facebook research concluded that 13% of British users and 6% of American users trace their desire to kill themselves to Instagram. Is that right? Is that a conclusion of your research?
Respectfully, Senator, actually what the research shows, if you look at it more carefully, is that about 0.5% of teens indicate a connection of suicidal ideation to their Instagram use. And these are just teens who have that ideation. That's 0.5% too many. And we've invested incredibly heavily in suicide prevention on our platform. For example, we have reporting flows specifically dedicated to suicide.
So you just suggested a moment ago. You just suggested a moment ago that I look at the research more carefully. How would you propose I do that? Have you released the research?
We've released two of the primary pieces of research that are part of that story, and we're looking to release additional research.
So was the Wall Street Journal not telling the truth when it said, quote, 13% of British users and 6% of American users trace their desire to kill themselves to Instagram? That is from the Wall Street Journal. Was that true or false?
It's a misunderstanding of the research, but I'd point you to the blog post that our vice president of research wrote that goes through the characterization and explains the research. And
has the full research been released or not?
Actually, Senator, we've released 2 of the specific studies, and we're looking to release more research.
So what is the research you haven't released? What are you keeping secret? Because you're telling us if only you knew the full research, and then at the same time you're not releasing the research. So which is it?
I understand your question.
Do you want us to examine the full research or not?
Released 2 of the primary sources. We're trying to release others. I believe you have.
So you've cherry-picked the ones you want us to see. Have you released the research? I haven't seen this research, so if you've released it, I will happily take a look at it. Have you released the research that the Wall Street Journal said concluded, and this is your own researcher concluding, 13% of British users and 6% of American users trace their desire to kill themselves to Instagram? Have you released the underlying and the entire underlying research behind that?
Actually, Senator, again, I disagree with the characterization of the research in the Wall Street Journal.
Have you released the entire research behind it? Have you released the research behind it? The entire research?
We've released the 2 studies as I
So you've cherry-picked part of the research that you think helps your spin right now. So let me ask you, if 6% of American users trace their desire to kill themselves to Instagram, you just said that's not bombshell research. Tell me, what would be bombshell research? If 6% is not, what would be?
Respectfully, Senator, that is, again, a mischaracterization of the research. And maybe more importantly, what the research showed is that in those small instances, in that 0.5%, there's actually an opportunity for us to help, that teens do find that we can be helpful in these instances.
So has Facebook changed your policies after you had a report that said teenagers using your product were significantly more likely to kill themselves? Did you change your policies in any regard to prevent that?
Respectfully, Senator, we have a set of suicide prevention experts that we work with on a regular basis, and we are constantly updating our policies.
Did you change your policies as a result of this research informing you that your products were making teenage girls significantly more likely to kill themselves?
We update our policies on an ongoing basis.
You're not answering my question. Did you change your policies in response to this research? That's a yes or no.
We change our policies based on expert guidance, not based on.
So you're not going to answer that question. I'm just going to ask one final question, which is, your company conducted paid for research that informed you that your products were making teenage girls more likely to kill themselves. I have a 2-part question. Number 1, have you quantified how many children have taken their own lives because of your products? And number 2, as the global head of safety for Facebook, what would you say to a mother? What would you say to a father who lost a child because of Facebook's products?
First of all, Senator Cruz, the research that you are referring to is in fact not causal research. So that's important to understand. Second of all, as someone who's had a brother die by suicide, as well as a close college friend who's died by suicide, I would offer any family who's ever lost a child, regardless of whether it has to do with Facebook or not, in relation to suicide, the utmost of empathy.
So you didn't answer the question if you've done any effort to quantify how many children have taken their own lives because of Facebook's products. Have you done any, has the company done any effort to quantify, to put a number to it?
Causal research of that kind, Senator, requires an extraordinarily long period of time. And in fact, we have made significant investments to understand
Is that a no?
Cause and effect.
Is that a no?
This is not causal research, Senator.
So it's a no. You've done no research to determine how many children have taken their own lives because of Facebook's products.
That's not research that we could do easily. That's a long-term set of research. That's just, it's not, but.
Well, I'm sorry it's not easy. Let me suggest that when you have children taking their own lives, it's worth doing. Your characterization that this is not bombshell research is inaccurate. And for the parents who are losing their children, it is a bombshell in their lives. And I understand Facebook needs to make a buck. And so if the research isn't easy, apparently you guys aren't doing it, but there is a reason people across the country are horrified at this behavior.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz.